And that's enough for this replay. Ding! Now, you notice we started off with macro, we're getting slowly but surely even down into the things called cheese. Ugh. Now, let's talk about cheese for a second. I'm not going to talk too much about this build because this build is the exact same thing you just saw. The only difference, 27 house, minute 4 barracks. Only difference is that at roughly a minute, we're going to send another worker out here. So that about instead of 134 like last time, because you're not getting that guy's benefit of going back to the gold mine and getting gold for you, it's going to be about a minute 40. We're going to, minute 45 even. Second barracks is going to go down here, and you just rally units over here forever. Now let's talk about cheese. There's this idea in real-time strategy games, not just Littlewargame, but in real-time strategy games, that you are supposed to macro. You are supposed to take the game as to the long point, not do anything stupidly greedy or aggressive, and just kind of like play a gentleman's game. And the idea is that cheese, which this 2 racks proxy would probably count as cheese. The idea is that cheese is somehow, 139, so earlier than I thought, is somehow unwholesome, or it's not a real win if you win when you're going cheese. And I'm here to tell you that that way of thinking is wrong. It is flatly incorrect. And here's why I say that. It might feel good to tell yourself that you deserve the win if you go for macro, or that it's harder. And maybe there's some truth to that. A general truism of cheese is that it's much harder to beat down and to defend than it is to actually perform it. But here's why I say you're wrong if you assume that mindset. You can call it whatever you want. The goal in Littlewargame in a melee game is to beat your opponent. If you beat your opponent in the first 5 minutes of the game, or you beat them at the end of a 30-minute game, a win is still a win, and a loss is still a loss. I mean, look at TZK. TZK is a phenomenal player, and like I enjoy going against him all the time because he tends to do really, really aggressive things, like aggressively placed proxies, like in your base proxies, and aggressive watchtower placement, and 2 barracks all the time, and just things like other people would say are cheesy or that throw them off balance. Like he'll pull half his workers to go with some of his units from his proxy to just try and out beat you. And some people will say, oh, well, that's just cheese. But you know what? He does it really well, and it nets him wins. Add to that, TZK can play a very, very solid macro game. But that's frankly not the point. Cheese is okay. It's part of the game. It's like playing Street Fighter and complaining that Ryu has a Hadoken when you're playing a character who doesn't have a projectile. Or if you're playing Super Smash Brothers and you think it's lame that Falco has a stun laser and you're a Captain Falcon, you have to get in melee range to do anything. I hate to break it to you, but it's part of the game. So you're not doing yourself any favors by putting a negative bend on it. So if you accept that fact, I guarantee you'll see a lot more variety in what you can do and find out that the game is a lot bigger than you can imagine. And I'm prefacing what I'm about to cover with this because if you thought this was cheap and cheesy and aggressive, you're not ready for it. As we go into our last couple of replays. Forged cheese. I feel like a boss because I invented this. Now watch this. You build a worker, send all of your workers to mine, and you build a forge as quickly as possible. Like, before 5 seconds in the game. Titano Circus, why would you do this? This is clearly stupid. I don't know about clearly stupid. But what I do know is that this has won plenty of games for me. When I invented it, I asked Jibs, hey, are you going to nerf this? He says, no, I love that this could exist in the game. I was so excited. Now, here's the thing. You put down the forge immediately, and you make sure that you save up the 150 gold. At about 55 seconds to a minute, this forge is going to finish, and you're going to start +1 armor. Here is why. You're not going to build any attacking units at all. You're just going to keep cranking out workers. Workers have 65 hit points and do 5 damage. That means it takes 13 attacks for one worker to kill another worker. If you have +1 armor, that means that effectively their workers have 65 hit points and you do 5 damage, which means it takes 13 attacks for you to kill them. But their workers only do 4 damage. Let's crunch numbers. 4 goes into 65 17 times. It takes it goes into like 16 and 1/4. 16 and a third, something like that. Yeah, 16 and a quarter. But it takes 17 attacks to kill one of your workers. It takes 4 more attacks for each one of your workers to be killed than your opponent's. So if your opponent is doing something really aggressive, or they're slightly delayed on their tower placement, or something a little different is going on, you are fine. About the 2-minute mark, 1:55 to 2-minute mark, here's a good rule of thumb. Instead of looking at this at the time, look at this. You see this line between the 3 and the 4? When the blue bar gets the line between the 3 and the 4, pull every single worker that you have in existence and bum rush your opponent. Because you will get there roughly about the time that this finishes. You can actually pull them a little before, like here. Because look, these guys are going to finish right about here. Look at this. We're at 2:35. It's a full 10 seconds before your 6 expanding players' watchtower goes up. Here's another thing to consider. Look, you're in their base, or you're past their base. Here's another thing to consider. I kept making workers. If you did not make these workers, you could take one of these workers over here, these +1 glorious armored workers, and the money that you could save, you could just build a tower, and then your opponent has to pull not only to beat your towers, which you're setting up, but they'll also find when they pull that your workers are pretty hard to kill, and it's very unlikely they're going to have a unit out in time to deal with it. This is very, very powerful. It's a good way to catch people unawares. Like, it's glorious. If you walk into someone's base and you see a forge, your immediate reaction, if you're not very confident, is, oh, watchtower. You walk in, you see the 4 watchtower. Done. Alright. Now, proxy workshop. I'm actually not good at this. This is Jib's. He has said recently it's his favorite cheese. I'm definitely not good at this, but the basic gist of this is pretty sound. You send a worker over immediately. He builds a workshop. After building the workshop, he builds the tower. What you're going to find is here we go. It's about 25 to 30 seconds. It's just as long as he gets over there. But he's going to build the workshop. When the workshop completes, he's going to come over here and build a tower. Come on, build. When that tower goes up, I wish you the best of luck. Because if the tower goes up, you're in a very awkward scenario where you will likely not have, at this point in the game, any units. And especially if you're going for a 6 expand, you're not going to have your barracks down until like 3:30, something like that. Like, that's when you'll start your barracks, roughly. And yet, if the tower goes up, and we'll see this, ding, build a catapult, tower's going to go up. If this tower completes, you're in a world of hurt, because this catapult is going to come out, and it's going to sit behind this tower, and it's going to attack your base. And there's not much of anything you can do. I mean, if they have a tower right here already, you can put the tower over here and then siege from right here, and you'll be fine. And you will just do a lot of damage. It's very aggressive. It's very in your face, and it's very, very hard to feel like you're doing something or anything or can do anything if you're up against this. Good thing to think about if you're going for this is that if you did, now obviously this is a butchered version. It's not well done. I mean, Jibs could do this so much better than me. I'll try and pull a replay and replace that with this with that. But something to consider, if you go for a fastest 1 barracks expand, you'll be pretty good against this. If you go for a 1 barracks expand in general, this will be a pretty safe opening for you. It's only when you're going really for 6 expand that this is super effective, Pokemon style. Other things to consider, if you are going 6 expand and you find yourself in this scenario, build your unit producing structures in your main base away from this base, from your natural, because all you need to do is buy time. The longer that you're mining and the longer that your units are up, the more time you have to go ahead and get out some soldiers. When you get out soldiers, you just crank a bunch of soldiers out and then grab all of your workers, select a mine over here to worker drill or mineral walk or gold walk or whatever you want to call it, and tell them to attack over here, and then send all of the units that you've made. Tell the workers to attack back over on this side, and your soldiers and whatnot to attack on this side, and you should be able to hold it. You should. It's a very micro-intensive game if this happens. Alright, and now that we're done with that, we're going on to our final one. It's not the final countdown because we didn't count out 3, 2, 1. We're just going to go to the final one. When cheese arrives and succeeds, contrary to popular expectations. Look, send everyone to mine. Build a worker. Hell, build 2 workers. This is Valley 2. It's a popular map. You should consider it. Look at this. You send a worker off the start. This also happens in Le Petit, if you play that. Hey look, 30 seconds, we're on this other side of the map. Oh man, I guess we'll just build a tower. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to do this in a real game because the opponent's castle is right here. But what you could certainly do is throw your tower here, or here, or on a larger map with more space like King Shizong Station. If you get there, you can build a tower here, behind their mineral line. Or here, or here, or here. Anywhere. All of the places. If you're super aggressive, you just don't even build the starting worker. Just take all of your workers, immediately go over here, and then start the tower, send all of your workers to surround it, build it, start killing things. Again, if you play Le Petit, this is familiar to you. This is about as cheesy as you can get. It's about as dirty and underhanded as you can manage. That being said, hope to see you more in Littlewargame. It's bigger than you've ever imagined. Ciao!